What's up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Tonight, we're having another one of our streams, and this one in particular is going to be a little special because we are being joined tonight by someone that we have not seen on the channel in a little while, since 2023. A lot of you may remember him. A lot of you definitely, I'm sure, will love him. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ethan WX. Ethan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and great to be on here. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. We have quite a bit to get into. But first of all, I'm sure some people are wondering, how have you been? How have you been? And all of that. How have you been? You've been doing
Oh,
good?
me? I've
Yeah.
been doing stuff, putting out YouTube videos, and I decided, since I've been busy, decided it'd be good time to come on to a stream for once.
Having a little bit of fun tonight. Also talking about some Tropics for sure as we continue these weekly streams presented to you. But let's go ahead now and get right into it as we are looking at it. So basically, here's the situation that we have right now. I did not post a video today. In part because I was busy and all that stuff, in part because there's a lot of stuff that I want to cover tonight on the live stream. And since Ethan is here, this would be perfect to kind of talk to him a little bit about what's been going on. So, Ethan, before I jump into what I want to talk about, overall, what's your thoughts on what's been going on in the tropics? It's been pretty quiet to start for the season.
We are only in mid-June, so the hurricane season has only been going on for 2 weeks now. We typically don't see a lot of development
Yeah,
early on in the season,
yeah, I know.
but there are some signs that there will be development picking up soon because this is a season that may be above average, like the last several have been.
Yeah, we'll have to pay attention to that for sure. The Eastern Pacific's definitely been firing off really quickly over the last month. It's been pretty interesting. We already have 4 named storms over there. We have Dalila currently moving along the Mexican coast right now. I've been looking at satellite imagery of that. In fact, I can pull up our trusty dusty new. Well, not new. We did use this last year. Are using one of our good satellites for that. Taking a look at that, and as John wants me to use, sometimes we have to provide a seizure warning because, flashing lights and all of that. But looking at the satellite for Dalila right now, excuse me, taking a look at that, definitely some pretty interesting stuff's going on. Looking at it right now, and I'll go ahead and share the screen here on the Discord as well, doing that just to show you this. Looking at this right now, things are getting pretty interesting. You're noticing some convection starting to fire off again near the center of circulation. Ultimately, it's pretty interesting to see how this has been panning out. But ultimately, as the NHC has been kind of highlighting, I think this is kind of where it peaks out because as you move further away from land, it appears that based on the conditions, it's going to be moving into a drier environment, more wind shear, and some cooler sea surface temperatures. So I think this is pretty much where Dalila is peaking, Ethan. Ethan, what do you think about that?
With the convection firing up around the center, there is a chance tonight that it could briefly attain hurricane status, but right now, don't think that'll be the case. I think it's pretty much near peak at the moment,
All
at
right,
least wind wise.
perfect. All right, thank you very much, Ethan. Um, yeah, so that's what we have going on with Dalila right now. Quickly looking at the latest NHC advisory, it's currently a 65-mile-per-hour tropical storm. It's really been kind of hovering near the coast. I'll pull up the graphics real quickly and take a quick look at the cone for you. Yeah, it looks like the tropical storm force winds are mainly hugging the coast of Mexico right here. As it's moving a bit further to the west-northwest, it's expected to continue its westward shift into tonight, and then it's going to move into basically drier air, a cooler environment, and it's going to dissipate into potentially a remnant low at this current point. If we go ahead and show you the quick discussion real quickly, yeah, it's supposed to be post-tropical or a remnant low, and then dissipate in the next 3 days. right there. So that's pretty much what we have going on with Dalila right now. Eastern Pacific, though, has kind of been pretty interesting to say the very least. In 2 weeks since hurricane season started, at least in the Atlantic, all of the activity has been on the east, on the opposite side of the North America in the Eastern Pacific, where you have had 4 named storms, 1 hurricane so far, and we have a chance for another disturbance that is currently Invest 94E. So here's the situation that we have right now. A broad area of low pressure associated with a tropical wave is located offshore of the Pacific coast of Costa Rica and is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions appear conducive for gradual development of the low, and a tropical depression could form by the middle of next week while moving westward to west-northwestward just offshore of the coast of El Salvador, Guatemala, and southeastern Mexico. It now has a 30-60 tag on it, 30% probability in the next 48 hours, 60% in the next 7 days. So we're going to want to pay attention to that as well, because there might be some stuff that might be happening in the Bay of Campeche as a result of this and the trajectory of that wave, but we'll have to pay attention to that. It's kind of the tropical development we've been alluding to. Already, we have 34 people in the stream right now. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. So thank you very much for tuning in tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, we have another host here. We have Daniel. Daniel, say hello to the stream.
Hello, everybody. It's been a while.
Yeah,
finally joined back.
Yeah, you definitely have. Well, definitely have. How have you been? You've been doing good?
Good enough.
That's for sure. Anyway, so Daniel, if you've been paying attention to the tropics, we were kind of going over this a little bit. A lot of the activity has been firing off in the Eastern Pacific. We've had 4 named storms so far. What's your thoughts on kind of what we've been seeing this hurricane season, both in the Eastern Pacific and in the Atlantic?
Well, with Tropical Storm Dalila, I actually predicted it forming at least into a tropical storm about a week ago, way before it was even designated, even really an invest. I remember looking at just the satellite imagery. I was like, that might form into a tropical storm. Obviously a fish storm, but yeah, it's actually it's acted together really well, almost approaching hurricane status, but it's not going to reach that this early into the season, at least not yet.
Yeah.
It's a little too early for that, and it's moving a little too quick for that right now.
Yeah,
but
I do
I do see it trying to, in the time that has left, still try to develop, but it's not going to have enough time because what is the conditions out there, Pat?
Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the satellite imagery right now. Let's pull this up, Eastern Pacific. Here's where we're looking at right now. Let's look at the water vapor imagery first. It's moving into a dry environment in the next little while. Dry air is going to kind of choke this out. You're also looking at cooler sea surface temperatures as well. Let me go ahead and pull those. Up very quickly right here. Let's see. This is North Atlantic. This is the Atlantic side of things. Let's see if I can get the Eastern Pacific pulled up very, very quickly. Yeah. Okay. I'll just go here. Do this. All right, Eastern Pacific, perfect. So here's what we're looking at right now, and I'll go ahead and open this in a new tab. It's right now moving into water temperatures around 28 degrees Celsius that are only going to get cooler moving further to the west. In the terms of wind shear, let me pull it up very quickly. On the Sims website right here. Let's see, Northeast Pacific, looking at winds and analyses and wind shear. It's in a pocket of low wind shear right now, but that's going to increase subtly as it moves further to the west. Daniel, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
It only has, well, I'm just going to look at the track here. Give you a rough estimate of still tropical favorable temperature development. It would have about not long.
All right.
Probably like 15 hours left of development time.
All right.
If it can even hold that.
Yeah.
That's generally conducive temps of 80 Fahrenheit waters, and that's going to go over at low. It's going to, well, lowest point will be 77, and then it will taper off, but kind of stay around the 77, which, if it's a low-end tropical storm, could hold the strength, but with wind shear and dry air intrusion, that is not going to hold it together for much longer.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Daniel. Yeah, I'm looking at this right now. I think it, honestly, if it peaks, it's going to do it later tonight, and then it's going to fizzle off. If so, I think we're already kind of
I think
of it.
I think it's already peaked.
I
It already peaked from when those convection hot towers were going off earlier. That's when it was peaking.
Yeah, I mean, we're still seeing some of that now, but not to the extent of what we were seeing previously.
It's weaker. It's way weaker.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens. But anyway, that's Dalila is not the only thing we're paying attention to, Daniel, in the Eastern Pacific. We're also paying attention to 94E, which, according to some ensembles, may have a chance of entering the Bay of Campeche. If you've been paying attention to it, what's your thoughts on the potential development of the system?
See, I've had a little bit of a glance with that system, but in general, it's more so I was focusing on Dalila when I was. This system, based off what I can tell, it's gonna, it's a 50-50 split on which direction it goes. It either goes out to sea like this one, but closer to the shoreline, or it makes an impact and goes into the southern Gulf, which will probably be unfavorable for any further development once it hits. But, there's that off chance that something tries to redevelop in the Gulf, but I think it's a little too early in the year, especially with current wind shear patterns right now. I know you. I saw your latest video that those shear maps are not the most favorable for whole Atlantic development at all right now, and it usually stays that way until prime season, which is more so mid to late July into August.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I've been watching it right now. The European ensembles, the 12Z, looks like there is that split off for right now. Looking at the 0Z for comparison, it looks like that split off was a bit stronger towards the Eastern Pacific previously than the 12Z, where it's shifted maybe more so towards Mexico and heading more towards the Bay of Campeche and the Gulf, but not by very much in terms of it getting out there. So we're going to want to pay attention to that, Daniel. What's your take on at least some of the ensembles I'm showing?
Yeah, so like if it turns into sideswipes the coast in the East Pac, it has a chance of further development, and we see that one ensemble, a few of them reaching up to hurricane stats on winds at least, which could be a possibility. A low-end hurricane, maybe a mid-end hurricane, but in
the Gulf,
I would say at max. No, I'm talking about the ones off the coast in the East Pac.
Okay.
Those mile runs that are showing reddish and purple in there on the track lines. But the true extent of it is probably going to be a high-end tropical storm, gust up to hurricane force if it sideswipes. Now, if it goes up towards the Gulf in that direction, it's going to have less time to develop overall.
Okay.
Would say probably a mid to high end tropical storm hits inland that area, depending exactly where it goes, will depend on how much strength it will have when it re-enters the Gulf, but probably very disorganized.
Because of mountains and terrain and all of that.
Mountain, yep. And then the Gulf is not going to be conducive, so it's probably going to get all sheer to one side and be a lopsided mess.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and take a quick look at the wind shear maps, at least for the Western Atlantic, just to see kind of, okay, what is this shear going to look like around the time that this is supposed to cross into the Gulf. So here's where I'm going to take a quick look at. Going back to Weather Nerds. So I have this out 168 hours right now. That's when a lot of these ensembles kind of stop. That's where I've stopped it for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and go out to 168 hours on the 12-0 just to kind of complement that. So here's what we're looking at right now. This is 5 days out. Yeah, the wind shear does start to lift a little bit in the extreme southwestern bay of Campeche over here, but then it starts to increase again, and by 168 hours out, yeah, it's not optimal for tropical development right there, and it looks like it just shifts more and more towards the west. And then 198 hours out, you do have a little bit of a break, and then you have that shear fluctuating again and again and again. So overall, it's very tricky, but I would say there are a couple of breaks that you could look at. The first one's like 5 days out, and the next and the next one's like 8 days out. But and I'll check and see. Let's look at Weather Nerds and see when this enters the Gulf region. Okay, it's in the Gulf region 6 days out. So I think
I don't think so. It's also still a little far out for me to be confident in that ability.
Sure.
And also, since it's right now kind of moving in random directions, since it's not identified where exact center is right as now, but rough area where it is, which is, if you go back to the satellite, I think I know where an optimal center for the invest is, based off rotation in infrared.
Let me go ahead and take a quick look at it in the EPAC for you. All right, go for it.
So for the actually, I would just go on to the system itself.
Oh yeah, we can do that on Invest 94E. All right, here you go.
So obviously you have your hot towers to the north, but you see the two little sub hot towers where it seems like where the spin is originating. That's where I think the center is, or just a little above that.
Okay. You're referring to these ones right here?
So
these ones that my
well, I can't see. I can't see your mouse on Discord, but
is it at 10 degrees? Is it at like below 10 degrees north, or around there?
Around. Well, no, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Those two in that 10 degrees north area, if not like the halfway point of between 10 and 11.
Okay. All right.
Based off rotation, that would signify. Now, again, to be clear for everybody watching, this is based off not being able to actually see the low level as of right now, since it's
just
it's nighttime over there. And it's still a disturbance. And the center, it's actually, hold on. I might have actually found the exact center based off visible data.
All right.
Well, current center doesn't mean it's gonna not relocate.
All right.
So it's around I would say, just above the 10 degree north.
Awesome.
Just above those hot towers. So if I originate that, so it's closer to the shore than where most things are putting it.
Okay.
So if we follow that trajectory, it would be based off the movement. It's barely moving right now, kind of just sitting there.
All right.
moving pretty slowly.
Okay.
I could not put an actual measurement on how fast it's moving right now, but slow. But eventually that's going to pick up. Now, actually, another good question is, since the Dalila itself has such... it has so much attached to it.
Yeah.
It has your back end flow and also shear just overall in the back. Actually, that's another good point.
Oh yeah.
The storms. There's storms popping up in the back that are part of probably the shear layer. That are right in front of the invest. I wonder if that's going to do something to it.
Yeah, that might be a bit of a concern to look at right there.
Yeah, where those other hot towers are going off. Now that
Off
might be
Mexico.
temporarily, but still, it could still do something to the leading edge, and that might actually be why it's being pushed a little bit lopsided right now.
Okay.
Now, as it progresses forward, we'll see what that does. And also, again, wind shear is not always evident. Even right now, it's more evident since we have higher, more prone cloud tops. But just go look on the Gulf in satellite, and you can see things moving all which way very fast. In the Caribbean and Gulf, it's moving pretty fast, and it will continue that way. Now, for the current invest itself, yeah, I think where the cloud tops that are over land right now, they're on the leading edge of this, are getting sheared, at least on the leading edge of it, based off what I can see.
Getting sheared from Dalila's outflow.
I would get. Well, I don't know if it's actually the outflow itself or just shear in general.
Okay.
I think it's just other shear feeding down in between the gap between the two.
Sure.
The outflow channels, as this thing pushes off, might actually hinder this thing, even if this thing dies off, because, well, dying storms tend to expand. We know that, or they contract. But knowing how much of an influence it's kind of merged with just storms over Mexico, it seems to be expanding.
Okay. We'll have to see what happens.
I'm not sure quite when this thing is gonna turn, Dalila, because right now it's still moving. It's supposed to be turning right about now, but it seems to continually going northeast right now.
Yeah, it's currently going west-northwest as of right now, but yeah, it's supposed to start turning. It's supposed to turn to the west pretty shortly. I'm gonna see if we can see something.
Yeah, actually, I think it has. Just not the track I'm looking at is not updated yet.
Yeah, it looks like it started.
I think it just started turning.
Yeah,
so.
Just based on satellite imagery and a closer look, yeah, it looks like it's just now shifted to the west. So.
Also, I do feel like there is a possibility chance that this thing could theoretically be like a little higher than 65, but yeah. I mean, based off that structure, gives me some hesitant pause to say that this is still that wind speed.
You think it's a little stronger, Daniel?
I think it's a tad stronger because, I mean, I don't want to say, oh, it's forming, trying to form a little eye there, but you see it.
Yeah,
I see it.
The core a little bit.
There's a core building, not necessarily an eye because it's not clearing, but there is definitely more of a banding of a core forming.
Yeah, the question is, will there be enough time for it to fully wrap around?
It probably won't, but a semi-core, yes, which it currently seems to have right now.
Yeah, definitely interesting structure right here to see how this pans out. But
yeah, the whole back end's convection is being pretty much. It's honestly, we might have very soon, as the second the front opens up, which might happen. We might have dry air circle around the whole thing and cut off this other outflow, and it just being the center.
Are you referring to the invest or?
No, I'm referring to Dalila.
Okay.
Because, if you go on infrared, you just see a ginormous chunk in the where it was convected, just outside the main core, is
All
now
right.
hollow.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. It looks like it. Is that dry air that's starting to get in there or no?
It, I don't. Maybe around the back end.
Oof. We'll have to see how that.
It's hard to
pans out.
tell right now if this could also just be a convection flare dying, which, yes, happens.
Yeah, that's
Cycling. But right now it seems like something storm structure is fading in convection. So if something did get into the center, and it's like if you draw a line in the go into infrared,
All right.
it would kind of really see it like
Sure.
that. Just that the open hole that's just feeding right towards the core.
Mm-hmm.
From back end into the core itself. So I would say the second that there's an opening in the front, there's going to be dry air that shoves right in between there.
Okay. Yeah.
Fully.
I'm noticing that a little bit too. So, yeah, it doesn't look like it has much more time to develop, honestly, or more.
I would say now it's probably in its weakening phase.
I'd agree. So. Yeah.
Based off structure, this seems like a more the structure is slowly gonna start imploding. Honestly, if you look at not the RGB water vapor, but the other water vapor around tropical tippets, it's pretty obvious. Just the structure becomes more expands and is all disorganized right now, looking more low level than more conductive cloud tops. Which this looks like, if it was not tropical, this is turning post-tropical, if not subtropical.
All right. Thank you for.
But
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be something to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely expanding like a lot after that convection flare, but. The important fact to note, as this is still affecting people slightly on the coastline, is the fact that it's still going to bring impacts, definitely rainfall on the coastline, while it's still kind of just slowly moving to now like the northwest.
All right.
Yeah, and eventually moving west. So right now we've rather weakened, so less impacts are being made to the Mexican coast.
Thank goodness. So, yeah. All right. Thank you very much for that, Daniel. Ethan, you've been listening to us talk about this for the last 30 minutes. What are your thoughts on everything you've heard from this conversation tonight, and what's your own input?
I do kind of want to bring up the disturbance that's developing kind of south of Mexico.
Sure.
I was actually just looking at the GFS while you guys were discussing that, and it looks like it could develop into a strong tropical storm or maybe even a low-end hurricane, and it's going to kind of slowly move up towards the coast in Mexico. Either way, regardless of if it develops or not, it's probably going to produce a lot of rainfall, so there's a very real flooding and landslide risk up there.
Yeah. The thing is with the GFS, I just looked at the 18C GFS. It has a 987 millibar system, very tightly packed, making landfall close to in Mexico, weakens and then just collapses and fizzles out pretty much. Like the pressure gradient, I mean, I'm not really buying the strength of what we're seeing with this right here, but we'll have to see what happens. Definitely, I will say it's definitely a lot further to the east than what the 12Z operational was showing for sure. So we'll have to pay attention to that. Instead of just moving along the coast, it's crashing into Mexico, which that might be something to pay attention to if going forward, if those trends continue, and if other models also watch it as well. Heck, the CMC's 12Z walking at this. Heck, even no, the CMC also wants this to get down to a hurricane, up to a hurricane before crashing into Mexico and then emerging on the Bay of Campeche. The question is, will it stay out? Will it stay out to sea to develop in the Atlantic or not? That's the main thing we're watching. Looking at the icon, I'm going to show the 12Z and the 18Z as well. Icon's 12Z doesn't really have much happening until landfall as a tropical storm, and then it crashes into Mexico, and that's pretty much where we're at. 18Z, looking at that, it's definitely further to the east, that's for sure. So we're seeing a lot of the operational runs, Daniel, if you've been paying attention, shifting this thing further to the east than what we were originally thinking. What's your thoughts on that?
What, on the invest?
Yeah, on the invest.
It's, well, the issue is we still don't know exactly where the sensor is, so I have no comment on that. So
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
All right.
Because we don't know where the center's gonna form. Where that center forms, that depends where it's gonna go.
Yeah, that's the critical part of this right here, because in situations where we're determining whether this is going to stay over land or move out to sea, that's going to be pretty important. And I recall last year with Debbie how that developed and where the LCL drop, or the low-level circulation dropped, was kind of critical in determining where it was going to potentially go and how strong it would get, because we were looking at this, like, we were thinking originally that Debbie, for example, was going to develop north of Cuba and it developed south of Cuba. So that's kind of those things that we have to pay attention to with this as well. So that's why we're kind of looking at the initialization of this, because in circumstances where we could, the difference of 50 miles can mean a tropical cyclone or not, that's kind of pretty critical. Would you agree with that statement, Daniel?
Yeah.
All right.
Even like small numbers like that can really make a difference. If the center's going to be onshore, if it's going to be half onshore or fully offshore.
Yeah.
Right now, where it's at, based off where model runs have forecasted it, it's actually a little higher than where the initiation point is, based off where I can see it.
A little higher, as in like further to the north, or
it's further to the north compared to where these models are initiating it to be.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like in that weird in between area, between that big convection verse and the smaller convection burst.
Yeah, kind of in that in between area. All right, I'm gonna take a look at the ensembles. I'm gonna see what the 18Z. Okay, the 18Z is still loading in right now, but I think, or just to kind of take a quick look at this. Yeah, it looks like, at least in terms of the GFS, looks like more are shifting a bit further to the north compared to what we were seeing previously. I'm gonna see if the European. Okay, European goes 144 hours out, so that'll be okay. Interestingly, the Euro ensembles want this to stay out to sea in the Eastern Pacific at this point.
I mean, that's what everybody would love to see.
Yeah. But it seems like some of the operational runs are shifting this further to the north and this hitting Mexico. So we're going to have to watch this. What's the Euro's AI going for? Even the Euro's AI at 18Z is crashing this into Mexico. 12Z had a similar situation but weaker. So yeah, I don't usually use this run very much, but in some circumstances I might just to kind of see what that's detecting. So, yeah, and then the Euro doesn't really have much happening until it hits Mexico, like right before it does, and then from then on out, just there's not really much going on, partly due to the wind shear that's in the Gulf region right now. So that's interesting to see how that pans out. And yeah, Daniel, you have anything else you want to take a look at?
Um. Well, the only other tropical system is on the other side of the world, but that has already made landfall. So, yeah.
All right.
Did make it to typhoon status briefly, though.
Nice. But yeah. So that's okay. So that's what's going on with that in terms of what we're looking at in terms of these systems over here. This is the area of interest that we're watching for our Gulf threat right here. That's why we're talking about this so much tonight. So now I want to go ahead now and talk a little bit about I do want to go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the conditions that we're seeing and kind of watching the evolution and seeing how this is ultimately going to pan out. So let's go ahead and get started. We've, as you know from Pat's Path Predictor videos, for those of you tuning in, I talked about sea surface temperatures, the wind shear, moisture, all of that stuff. And ultimately, we're going to kind of do that again tonight and do a deeper dive into what we're seeing because I didn't upload a video today, so I figured this would be an appropriate time to do that. So Daniel, Ethan, if you're ready to go, are you guys down to do that for a little bit unless something comes up that we need to talk about?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Daniel,
Go ahead.
Okay, Daniel's deafened, so we'll check it back with him in a little bit. Ethan, if you're still going to be with us, so here's what we have going on. Here's our sea surface temperatures for the Atlantic. So this is a new. So Ethan, this is you haven't been around at least in the streams, but this is kind of a new maps we've been using mainly through the courtesy of Yoshi. He's been creating a website and he's given us kind of new maps to take a look at. We don't have to deal with the whole global sea surface temperature from run that we saw like with 2-degree contours. Now we have a more detailed map. It's pretty nice, but here's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at this is really exploded over the last day I've looked at in terms of SSTs. Looking at the Gulf, we're looking at a pretty broad area, especially around the loop current at the surface, around 30 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, for mid-June, that's very warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say very warm. I would say that's extremely warm.
Yeah.
It's what we would normally expect for September temperatures, not mid-ish June temperatures, not even late June.
Yeah.
Right now.
Well, I will say,
So
I'm sure a lot of kiddies down in the Gulf are happy that the waters are warm to go swimming, but we're not happy about this right here because of the threat of hurricanes in the near future. So, yeah. Also,
Yeah, and right now
stuff.
that Gulf is untapped. So any storm that does move through there is going to have, plenty of warm water to work with. I wonder what the OHC looks like in that area.
Let's take a quick look at that. Here's the OHC as of today. We're about to crack.
So pretty high, right in the same area where it's very warm.
Yep. Yeah, this is a problem.
Have some shallow pockets, but those are going to fill in pretty quickly.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Yeah, and another thing to note, Ethan, the Western Gulf, and I'll go ahead and kind of show you this, what we've been seeing. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a bit of a surge in OHC in the Western Gulf region especially. So here's what we had before. This is for June 1st, about 2 weeks ago. We were seeing we're seeing some areas around 50, maybe cracking 60, 70 OHC on June 1st. Here's where we're at right now. We're seeing a much...
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Seeing how this has panned out.
That's quite an increase in only 2 weeks.
Yep. That's partly because I would say the warm water, it's starting to get deeper and deeper down because OHC, as we all know, take the hot water at the surface and calculate how deep down it goes. Pretty much that's how you figure OHC out. Essentially your gas tank for your hurricanes. So, yeah, so that's a pretty big surge. Also, another area that we're watching too. We've also noticed a bit of an increase on the Gulf Stream side as well, and we're seeing a pretty big surge of at least some OHC moving further to the north of this into the subtropics as well, which is something we do not want to see either, because you know what that means, Ethan. That that could allow for systems to stay out longer and maintain
Oh yeah,
resiliency
and
longer. Yep.
all the viewers need to keep in mind that this is the very beginning of hurricane season, basically.
Yeah.
We're still 2 months off from things becoming active.
Yeah. So we have to take that into consideration as well. So that's our OHC right here. But I also want to show you this graph too. We've been presenting this for quite a while. I'm actually going to go ahead and move my camera over to fully grasp this. This is the water temperatures we've been seeing in the Gulf over the last 90 days. Look at what we've been taking. Look at this. If you're watching the stream, this is May 1st. This is June 4th. This is June 13th. A massive increase from about 26.2 to from May 1st to about 28.7 on June 1st, Ethan.
Yeah, and then it continues increasing after that.
Yep.
Just in the last, I don't know, like 10 days.
Yep. It's still going up, and we're at 29.4 degrees Celsius right now. Still seeing that surge happening. That's going to continue for the next little while.
What question?
Yeah.
What is the highest reported temperatures in the Gulf ever been in Celsius?
Highest reported ever in the Gulf? I don't know. I think we saw 100 on the Florida Keys, 100 around the just off the Everglades.
Yeah, like 2 years ago during
Yeah.
the heat waves down there.
Yeah.
But that's also very shallow water, too.
Yeah.
So keep that in
In
mind.
Fahrenheit, people, not Celsius. Celsius would be
100 is
dear God.
Fahrenheit.
Then we'd be boiling.
100 is Fahrenheit. It is in Fahrenheit. Not 100 Celsius is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. No, we're not seeing that.
I did ask for Celsius.
Okay, in terms of Celsius, that's equivalent to about 38.
38.
That's 38 Celsius.
It's probably hit up to 40 in an isolated spot in a record history, but
Yeah.
who knows?
I would say in general, getting to like 32 is really impressive. That would be about 90.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to happen at July at this rate.
Oh,
Probably, yeah.
we'll have to see what happens with that. I do want to check the 500 millibar height anomalies real quick, just to the heights and all of that, because we're noticing some ridging. That's at least actually no. Let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit to the North Atlantic. Noticing a ridge pattern building up across much of the United States, and that's going to impact much of the Gulf region. And you're seeing those those above average heights, at least off the coast of Florida and the subtropics, and around the parts of the Gulf. But that ridging is definitely going to impact the temperature increase over there, at least until this breaks down. But oh boy, this is going to be a very interesting next. This is still going on. This is going to be an interesting next 10 days to see how those temperatures.
Looking ahead to like June 20, yeah, right about there.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. That might be a heat wave in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
How fun for me.
Yeah.
It's right around my birthday.
Yep. Oof, oof, oof.
June 24th.
June 24th, yeah. It's not going to look too fancy for you.
I plan on going to dinner, so don't worry about it.
Congratulations.
Either that or I'm doing a hike, a 5-hour hike.
Yeah. But
So-
overall, these heights do concern me, because we all know higher heights equal higher temperatures generally. So, that's going to really impact.
Hey,
the
Northeast, can you get your first hurricane in decades?
goal. Yeah. So that's kind of the situation we're dealing with that. Oh boy. The next 10 days are going to be interesting, and I think the surge of Gulf water temperatures is going to continue, at least in that region. Not sure how it's going to. I think it's going to impact the northwestern Caribbean as well, but we'll have to see how that pans out. But if we're seeing water temperatures that completely have surged, and heck, even the last 2 weeks like this, it's going to keep it up with a high pressure, a potential heat dome happening too. That's going to continue. Ooh. So, yeah, those are our sea surface temperatures.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not going to be any system moving through there that will disturb it.
Nah, there won't be. Yeah, there
So-
might be some mesoscale convections.
See-
Oh, go ahead.
See, the one storm that we're currently talking about will go right over that pink spot,
Yep.
which is like a hot spot. If it does take that path, and if it takes the swiping the East Pac coast, there's other spots that are hot on the coastline.
Yep. Right here. It's a situation we're going to have to watch very closely. But
Now, interestingly, the Gulf is nice and warm, but the main development region is a little cool,
Yeah.
around more average.
it's kind of more noisy over
If not,
there.
it's either slightly above average or actually around average, if not slightly below. It's a weird mixed match.
I would say if you look at the whole region, it probably averages to like right around average.
Yeah,
Or around average, but there's a few spots there that are a little below,
sure. Yeah. I want to check the climate.
but barely
oh,
below.
I want to check the climate reanalyzer real quickly just to kind of get my stuff looking at right here. Let's start with the North Atlantic in terms of water temps. Here's where we're at as a whole. This is where it's being measured right here. This is our water temps as a whole for 2025 in from this region of the Atlantic. It's pretty much around 2010. It's actually around 2010 levels right now in terms of its warmth and all of that. So that's pretty interesting how that's been panning out. But if you take a look at other few sections like the MDR, MDR is close, it's around average. It's just above the standard deviation, but it's around it enough to be considered around average, just slightly above, especially compared to what we saw last year. Oh man, this was a monstrosity right here. So that's what we had for the MDR. The Gulf region, yeah, this is the opposite. We're closing in.
It's basically about to overtake last year.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's likely going to continue that surge, and we could see that happening. I don't know when it's going to cool off.
Yeah, it looks like 2023 was the highest ever.
Yeah, in
31.2 Celsius.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy. That's got to be like
And actually,
88
if
Fahrenheit.
we also look at that track right now, it's overtaking that 2023
Oh
trajectory.
yeah, it is. We could potentially crack.
So I do wonder. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's going to crack even to 32 or close to that.
If that does, anything that gets in the Gulf will explode in August.
Explode.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even 30 will have disastrous consequences for anywhere in the Gulf Circle.
In 2023, we saw that with Dalila. Then in 2024, we had
Mm.
Beryl, which thankfully didn't get its act together until right before Texas. Francine, Debbie, then Helene, and then Milton. Oof,
Milton, yeah.
man.
Actually, when I was there in Florida recently, there's still parts of it that are a bit hammered from Milton
Yeah.
that have not still.
And Helene, too. A lot of the same spots
that
got
too.
major storm surge from both.
Sure.
I was on the opposite side. I was on the Space
Yeah.
Coast side, which
Yep.
is also the weaker side from that. Yeah, there was still lingering damage from those storms.
Yeah. Question from Diane: when do you see hurricane season picking up? July or August? Thanks so much. Based on the current patterns that I've been noticing, that with the wind shear and the moisture, I think we could see this pick up potentially in at least in terms of tropical development. I would say July could see some more openings for tropical
Late
development,
July.
like late July potentially, based on the wind shear patterns that I'm noticing now. And then early August, I think late July, early August is when we're going to see it actually start to ramp up again. But I do think July in general could see some more chances of tropical development, some more openings of it. The question is, will these waves or will these disturbances capitalize on them? That depends on the conditions that we see at that point. But considering we're seeing more precipitable water than average coming off of Africa, in the Sahel region, as well as a few other areas, that could definitely be a factor, especially with the Sahara dust as well, since that's going to peak in July, I believe. So, yeah,
Sahara air layer.
the Sahara air layer. Yeah,
Good old Sal.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, if we want to shift our focus to that, Daniel, what's your take on the Sahara air layer right now?
Well, I mean, I've been watching it. It's been very apparent on satellite imagery over the last while at this point. I mean,
Sure.
it, but it's honestly sometimes hard to tell if it's even dust or it's wildfire smoke right now.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot kicking off in the Sahara off into the Atlantic. Still a decent
Yeah.
portion, but it's definitely not nearly as much as it was only a few weeks back.
Yeah. Compared to what we saw last year, where are we at right now in your opinion? I've been noticing the trends and they're pretty concerning, I would say, in terms of there maybe being a little bit lower Sahara air than last year. What's your take on it?
Yeah, that was a factor last year and a big factor of stopping development into the more severe layers. But I mean, right now it seems like our major issue, which is really not conducive, is the wind shear. And when that lets up, it might reflip to dry air central, which, as long as tropical waves and tropical systems in general have a decent enough structure to fight it, they can form under optimal conditions.
Sure.
Just depends how much dry air is in the area. If it's a light area of dry air, it usually can develop still slowly, but still it can develop.
So, all right. But yeah, the way I've been looking at it, I'm actually going to pull up the precipitable water normal anomalies with this. Taking a look at this for the European, you're seeing a bit of a moisture surge right now from a tropical wave, but you're looking at all of this the precipitable water anomalies. Much of Western Africa is above average. That's not a good sign, especially if you're trying to kick up Sahara dust. Now, is Sahara dust still going to get kicked up? Yes, very much so. But how much is a very big factor in all of this. And another thing we need to talk about, and Daniel, Daniel? What's your thoughts on the Mediterranean winds? Do you think they play a big factor in the Sahara dust? A factor?
I'm just gonna be totally honest. I am not too familiar in those wind patterns,
Yeah,
so
that's something Tony would talk about with me. So, yeah.
I do know sometimes it does have a factor, but I've not actually looked too deeply into those. So, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, these moisture, but yeah, regardless of that, these moisture anomalies do concern me quite a bit, for sure. Because will there still be Sahara dust kicking around? Yes, but maybe it's a little less. Maybe it's less than what we were thinking it would be at this current point. We'll have to see how this pans out. But by and large, this is something I'm pretty concerned about. Also, Daniel, did you notice that the Bermuda High was? We were noticing the Bermuda High was starting to hover around as well, too, this early in the season.
Yeah, I started realizing that in some model runs when I was looking at other things.
Yeah.
Non-tropical.
Yeah. When do we typically see this kind of pattern where the Bermuda High starts to assert itself a little bit more? When do we typically
I
see
honestly
that?
forget when it actually starts because I never really truly pay attention to it, but
Sure.
I know it doesn't actually usually happen this early.
Ethan, if you've been paying attention, when does this pattern typically start in your experience?
Usually, I would say around August
Okay.
Yeah.
is when things start to get good. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the Bermuda High.
So if this is setting up in June, I would say that that's a bit early for because once we get to August, September, that's really when the Bermuda highest placement is ideal to bring hurricanes, tropical systems into the Caribbean or up into the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so someone in chat is asking the European EPS was showing from July 6th to July 20th a favorable environment. What's my take from that? I've seen that, but it's so far out that I want to wait for more data to come in. I'm curious to know where that information. I'm curious to know where to find that information. If you could link to me that, to that area, I'd be really appreciative of that. So that way I can take a look at it myself and kind of conduct an analysis on it. But I do appreciate you for asking me that, Big Red. Thanks for the chat. But yeah, right now I'm concerned about this Bermuda High setup right now because if this is happening in June, what's August going to bring?
Yeah. Yeah, God forbid. Don't really want to think about it.
No, not right now at least. Holy heck. So, yeah, that's the kind of situation we're dealing with. Because normally it's the Azores High that's usually the very dominant one. And I remember last year during Beryl, it was the Azores High that drove Beryl. It was such a strong high pressure system that it drove Beryl into the Caribbean and in the Gulf because of how strong it was. That was the main steering currents behind it. We're not seeing that right now. We're not seeing that. And I do want to check main sea level pressure anomalies real quickly. Oh boy. Are you guys taking a look at this? Higher pressure across the board, especially with the Bermuda High.
Delightful.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. But at the same time, higher pressure typically means less storms, so that might shut down. That might shut down tropical development for a little while until it gets a little bit more.
See, I would think if you get higher pressure over like the Mediterranean, North Africa region, that's going to give you more dust.
Yeah.
Just logically based on how things would work. Yeah.
Noticing that as well. But yeah. So we'll have to see how that pans out, at least for the next few days. I am noticing some lower pressure anomalies in Mali and Mauritania and parts of Algeria as well. So that might help. That might hinder some of the dust development too. But yeah, pretty high. But yeah, this pressure is definitely stronger. And then we start moving into a pattern of more of lower pressure across parts of the MDR for around June 27th to 28th, and then some more higher pressure across that. Oh man, I'm not liking this very much.
Yep.
I mean, it may not mean much now, but think about July and August. Whew. That's going to be interesting. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, so that's what's going on in terms of what we're looking at what we're seeing in July, and at least for June. I'm thinking right now we're not going to see much. I'm thinking right now the only plausible chance we see of tropical development for June is that Bay of Campeche system. What do you guys think so? For right now,
probably.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that could develop, but the problem is when it makes landfall in Mexico, it's going to be a pretty small system, which means the mountains are going to have an easier time tearing it apart. Whereas if it was a larger area of low pressure, then it might make it across Mexico and into the Bay of Campeche.
Sure. So, yeah.
So it's worth watching, but I'm not that concerned about it.
Okay. But yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking about in terms of development in June. Now in July, still waiting for that. I'm still waiting for that link from Big Red to come back. All right, Joseph Hardrin is asking, anyone ready for? Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, very funny, but yeah. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the moisture and the pressure. Let's talk wind shear because we haven't talked about that very much. This is the wind shear. This is the wind shear chart as of about an hour ago, guys. Not surprising, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
About
surprising.
that, huh?
Not surprising for right now, but what I have been watching with in the models has been kind of concerning me. If you've been paying attention to wind shear patterns, you'd notice that June is usually more blocky, more consistently just kind of straight, and there's not as much wave. There's not many waves with there's not many troughs and jets with the wind shear in terms of that. If you would agree with that generally, that's the pattern we've noticed. It's a lot more consistent. Yeah. Looking at the European right here, we're noticing, I'd say starting around late June, we're starting to notice more troughs and ridges. We're starting to see it dive down, go back up, dive down, go back up, starting to fluctuate up and down, up and down, up and down from there. And then you start seeing the wind shear starting to kind of take a toll a little bit. And then you're noticing a bit of a clearing of shear in the MDR in late June, at least according to this European. That's going to be interesting because normally you would see this kind of situation in July where you'd start to notice the shear going up, down, and then start to weaken towards the latter part of it. That's been kind of concerning me as well. Now, taking a look at the anomalies, I mean, the anomalies tell us, this is the anomalies right here. It's mainly noise across the Atlantic right now, but going forward, we'll have to see what happens. But thoughts on the wind shear and what I just showed? Oh boy.
So it looks like we're a bit ahead of schedule.
Potentially, yes. Daniel?
Yeah. Probably, yeah, I'm ahead of schedule, yeah.
Oof. Yeah. I'm not liking the sound of this. So, yeah. Man, when does the next European come out? It's 18C, doesn't come out for a while. Okay. Well, so that's kind of what we're seeing with that. Oh. Yeah. We'll have to look at the good old June shear. So, yeah. All right. But anyway, that's what we're paying attention to for right now. I want to see if I can pull up the European forecast real quick. Yeah, the ensemble. Okay, yeah, these are the ensembles now. I'm looking for the climatological ones. I'm looking at Global Climate Prediction Center. Oh, tropical storm probabilities. Okay. All right, I think this is it for right here. Oh. All right, this is for July. Base time. Okay. I'm trying to find development on this. Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah. All right. This is okay. I wish I could zoom in on this a little bit. But this is what we're looking at. This is the probabilities for. Okay, they've definitely come down a little bit, but in terms of tropical cyclone probabilities, right here, noticing a bit of noticing something in the main development region, noticing a 5 to 10, 10 to 20% chance of this. Like someone in chat was mentioning, it was definitely a bigger yesterday and a lot more widespread. But we'll have to pay attention to that going forward. It's going to fluctuate up and down, but yeah, we'll have to see how that pans out. But it's so far out that I'm just treating this as noise until I see a consistent schedule. What are your guys' thoughts?
Same.
I
Yeah,
would agree with you on that.
yeah. So we'll have to see what happens. So yeah, the Eastern Pacific has definitely though been taking the show for quite some time. So there's also some development possibilities as well from June 30th to July 7th as well in the main development region. Let's see. Okay, those have been like the scope of it has been down, but it's definitely a bit more concentrated than before. Comparatively speaking, we're seeing two more concentrated areas of development compared to one big area of one broad but not so big area development. But right now, once again, okay, this is interesting. From the last week of June until pretty much this time this run goes out, we're seeing tropical development possibilities across the MDR. The question is, what are they picking up on? Especially for the 23rd to the 30th. What are they picking up on? That's my main question right here. So, yeah, definitely noticing those chances as well. But what's your guys' take on that? Do you think it's just noise, or maybe is it onto something?
I mean, right now, I don't think it's anything that's really worth getting very concerned about. But
No,
a week or two from now, it's going to be something that we should probably look at again
sure.
in maybe the next two streams.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that pans out. But I am noticing that area of potential tropical development. So thanks for the person in chat who is bringing that to my attention. I do appreciate that. So that'll be something to pay attention to. And I just want to check the wind shear as well, just from that week. What is this? The 23rd to the 30th from the European. Okay, taking a look at this. Okay, wind shear definitely decreases quite a bit in that week across that part of the MDR, according to the runs, the European at least. I want to look at the 0Z. 0Z showing a similar setup as well, Ethan. So that's definitely something to watch. In terms of the relative
Yeah,
humidity, I'm watching it, but there's Sahara dust forecasted for that point. So if
we got a lot of Sal.
we got quite a bit of Sal that's going to be kind of choking out the northern 2/3 of the MDR, but there is some moisture on the ITCZ that could potentially do something, and the moisture does actually increase quite a bit as that run goes on. So we're going to want to watch that, but at least early on, I'm not liking
That
it.
moisture is pretty far south too.
Yeah, it's pretty far
So
south. That's close to the ITCZ right there. Um,
yeah,
so I would say, I mean, towards the latter end of the run, it definitely gets more concentrated, but definitely an uptick from 0Z, that's for sure. But right now, not a huge fan of it, but it's plausible. And water temperatures are a given. In terms of the anomalies above average, there's definitely, I could see why the Europeans going for a possibility for development at that week. I could definitely see it because we're looking at more precipitable water than average. We'll have to see what happens though. But yeah,
yep.
yep. So that's kind of what we're paying attention to. Thanks for tuning in and stream. Be sure to like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. So we will continue to pay attention to these threats. So, yeah. Okay. So, there's that. but I'm glad the person in chat that commented that brought that to my attention. In terms of tropical storm development, yeah, it's not really materialized. It's too early for that. I'll have to see how this pans. I'll have to see how this pans out in the next little while. But for now, the main show is in the Eastern Pacific for right now. But we'll see what happens at this current point. Okay, then going from the 16th to the 30th, and then all of that. Okay, what is interesting though is they are giving our little area of interest 94 Ethan a 30 to 40% probability of development in the Bay of Campeche though. So that's something to pay
Wasn't it
attention.
a 30-60, I thought? Like 30 in 48
No,
hours,
30-60
60
for
in
the
5 days.
NHC. Like in terms, like the European has this at 100 near 100% chance of developing on the cone. I'm just talking when it gets to the Gulf region, it has a 30 to 40% probability of development still.
Yeah, right now I'm not super, convinced that it will, but I
Yeah,
would not discredit the chance.
sure. It's dropped the probability's dropped quite a bit since yesterday. Let's see. 2 days ago, it's kind of dropped to where it was about 2 days ago. Yesterday, it surged to about 50 to 60%. Now it's down to about 30 to 40. So we'll see what happens. It's mainly dependent on if this thing can enter the Gulf and if this thing can stay as far enough away from land for it to develop. Those are the two main factors. But yeah, I'm not too excited about it otherwise. So, yeah. Oh, man. Okay. So, yeah. Ethan, is there anything else you want to go over?
I think in terms of major tropical developments, that's pretty much it.
All right.
I haven't looked really at the West Pacific or any other basins, so unless
Okay.
you want to talk about those, there's probably not much
There's
else
not
that I
much
have to
going
add.
on over there from what I've seen. So, yeah. All right. Okay. So, well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Honestly, not a whole lot at the moment. Just I don't know.
All right. Well, if that's the case, then I think we've covered everything on our end at least. I do want to check on Dalila one more time just to kind of see how it's been evolving. So there's what we got. Taking a quick look at the water phase. Yeah, it looks like those cloud tops have receded, and it looks like it's on its weakening phase
There was
right
a
now.
bit of convection near the center, but now it's not
Yeah.
continuing to blow up.
It's not the most healthy.
So it's
right now.
probably peaked already.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So that's pretty much what we have going. That's pretty much everything that we have for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So, Ethan, thank you very much for coming back on the stream. It was so great having you back.
It was great to be back.
Yeah. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wrap up our stream tonight. I know it's a shorter one this week than it was previous. We didn't really have as much to go over. We kind of set up the basics and all of that stuff the last few streams. So we'll kind of be paying attention to the tropics. We'll continue to update you on everything here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're closing out the stream, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to join the Storms United Discord server, which we would really like you to join, be sure to join. It is the link in the pinned chat, so be sure to join that. We'll be happy to have you and all of that. So thank you, but thank you very much again for tuning into the streams and all of that. We really appreciate the support. And be sure to like and subscribe as always. It helps us get more people engaged with weather. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful night. Stay safe.